Welcome to this GCSE sociology lesson on the concept of status, where I'm asking today, what is status and what are the different types of status? So that's your title and your learning question for today, and hope you enjoy. So status is a sociological concept that deals with a person's position in society. So sociologists believe that societies are generally unequal places. They're hierarchical, which means that they have different layers and levels. If you think back to some of that history you've done before, medieval societies with peasants and knights and kings and things like that, it's that general idea that some people have more power and sway over others, and we might call that status. So your status is the position that you occupy in society, and we'd refer to someone having a high status or perhaps a lower status in society. So you might want to reflect for a second or two about how much status you think you have. And there are two main types of status. So an ascribed status is a status that you are given. It's involuntary, which means you don't choose it, and it's usually something you are born with. So certain people are born with more status than others. If you have a quick look at the pictures, the Queen obviously was born into the royal family. She wasn't necessarily going to be queen from the moment she was born due to all the politics that went on there, but she was always born into a royal family where it was instilled upon her that royal duty was important. And if she'd not been born into that family, she wouldn't have the position that she has now. Same with Prince William. So Prince William will now be king one day. It's been known that he would be king from the moment he was born, and therefore that is an ascribed status, a position he has in society. You guys will also have some ascribed statuses, and we have different amounts of status depending on various different factors. So things like age is a really good one to understand, that in some societies older people are respected, respect your elders, that whole idea, respected as having more status than perhaps teenagers. In different cultures, different societies, even different families give different status to men and women. Your gender will affect how much status you have. Ethnicity, a really hot topic at the moment. We'll talk about that in more depth in a later lesson. And your social class, essentially how much money you have, affects what position you are in society. So all of those things generally come from your family, or they're things that you are born with that give you a certain amount of status, a position in society that sticks with you. There's also achieved status. So achieved status is what you receive because of your own efforts, abilities, and perhaps choices that you make. Now, our occupation is usually the best example of achieved status. So if you work hard in school, you get your qualifications, you manage to achieve yourself a status that is perhaps higher than others. So if you work hard, you become a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer. If you don't, then you have a job that gives you less status and also perhaps less money. So your occupation is usually the best example of an achieved status. We might also look at things like talents and skills. So David Beckham up there achieved his status through hard work and training, and putting his talents into use. He could easily have not done that and gone and done something different, but he didn't. He worked hard and trained and chose to use those talents. Lord Sugar is famous for starting from a very working class, low status family, but building up this multi-million pound empire that's given him an awful lot of status, and he's now in the House of Lords and all that kind of stuff. You will also have achieved statuses as a parent. So if you make the choice or take the action to become a parent, being a husband, a wife, a friend, all of those things give you a certain position in society, usually with roles attached, as we talked about last lesson. But all of those things are choices that you make through your own abilities, talents, and efforts. And all of those things give you a certain amount of status, but you're not born with those, so it's something that you achieve throughout your life. But it's not always that simple. So sometimes it's really hard to pitch where somebody gets their status from. And I've got a few examples to talk through with you. Usually we're looking at how much impact somebody's privileged background has had on getting them their status in society. Often we find that people achieve their status through a mixture of ascribed and achieved status. If I give you a couple of examples, Boris Johnson up there, top right hand corner, he's undoubtedly worked at getting the position of Prime Minister. He was Mayor of London. He, I think, edited some newspapers and things like that. He did various different bits of work, I'm sure he has at some point. And he has achieved his status as Prime Minister. He got enough votes to lead the party to become Prime Minister. But would Boris have been able to achieve that without the background that he came from? So from an incredibly wealthy background, a politically active family, so his family were already in politics, and he went to Eton, one of the most privileged schools in the country. So Boris had a head start. That was ascribed, that was from his family background, but he's also managed to achieve things for himself. So we can question whether he'd be as successful if he'd been born into a different family, but he has used his own talents and skills. Up there, you've got Jamie Redknapp and Frank Lampard. They are cousins. They are both ex-professional footballers. Again, we can question. They undoubtedly have talents and skills. They were fantastic footballers, but with their dads both working in the game of football and in the kind of professional game of football, would they have had the opportunities that they had without that privileged background? And then the same can be said for the Kardashians. So they've used their skills, their looks, they've made TV shows, they've done all those kinds of things, but their parents definitely gave them a head start. So their parents both involved in show business and sort of moving in circles with celebrities, that it raises the question, would they have been able to achieve what they've achieved for themselves without the privileged background that they have? So undoubtedly all these people have talents and skills that they've used, but we have to kind of question, and we can't draw a line so clearly between what's their ascribed and what's their achieved status. So really quick task today. Hopefully you'll be happy to get this little bit of a lesson done. So question number 1, please define ascribed status and give an example. Question 2, same for achieved status. And then question number 3, have a think about you and the status that you have. Can you name 3 ascribed statuses that you have and 3 achieved statuses? Which do you think has more importance in your life and why? So what have you managed to achieve for yourself? But what also has been with you since you were born? And which do you think, based on everything we've talked about in the last few weeks of sociology, what do you think has more importance over how you live your life and why? The things that you were born with or the things that you've achieved for yourself? And then finally, if you fancy the challenge task today, I'll put the link on Show My Homework as well. Short blog post, it won't take you long to read it at all. Have a read and then summarise it into 3 bullet points. What do you learn from it? What are the 3 most important facts that you can take away from that blog? And I look forward to reading what you come up with.